If you like fantasy books but you don't want to commit to super long stories, you are in luck, because today we're gonna see 12 fantasy standalones divided per moods, and we're gonna see funny, drama, fairy tale, and cozy. And if you're wondering why are these moods here, mainly because that's why I've been reading lately. So let me know down below if you want to see all the types of moods here. But let's start with the funny vibe. And in here we will start with the winner of the SPFBO 8 this year, which is Small Miracles. Small Miracles is something that will sound really similar to you if you read Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. The thing here is that we will have different angels that are trying to do some good stuff, but there's also these different demons. In our case, we will follow one of these demons that is kind of like gifted with the power of doing small things, you know, like small guilty pleasures. And the story is incredibly more cozy than you might expect. There are moments that are just so funny, they're hilarious, the pace it's super fast, there are different characters, but all of them are very likable, and all in all, it's a story that reads very, very fast. And we continued with Secret Project number 2 by Brandon Sanderson, or The Frugal's Wizard Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. This is a story that will blend this medieval setting but also with a lot of modern elements, because we will have our character that has forgotten everything and he's just dropped there. So you will have a lot of vibes from Project Hail Mary. Also, it's supposed to be very reminiscent to Terry Pratchett. At its core, we will have this Jason Bourne vibe where our main character knows that he can do amazing stuff, but he does not really know why or how, so we will follow him throughout this journey. And in this land, there's this alternative resonance to what we can have in the Norse mythology as a religion, so all of those points were really interesting. All in all, this book fell flat a little bit to me compared with other books of Sanderson, but if you don't take that into consideration and if you want something that is fun, this is definitely a way to go. And last in the funny category, we have Mort by Terry Pratchett. We'll follow this main point of view of this apprentice that is trying to learn how to be a reaper. And there are so many scenarios that are really silly, and you will find yourself laughing out loud more times than not, but it definitely makes you think at some points. In this case, if you want to give it a try to the audiobook, I really recommend it as well, because the narration is fantastic. I thought it was really, really well crafted how we're supposed to be seeing this death character and how he struggles through life and how he potentially wants a holiday. It was such a fast read, very easy to consume. Then we will continue with the other end of the spectrum with the drama, the dramatic standalones, starting with no other than the viral sensation Manacled. If you manage to avoid this book in any of the social platforms, you are a hero. But honestly, this is actually a standalone that is fanfiction, that it's worth the read if you want something that is very dark, and if you kind of enjoy the Harry Potter line where things got pretty messed up and you always wanted something to happen between Draco and Hermione. This book has 3 main parts, and it's a very good blend between the Handmaid's Tale, but also there's a fair amount of the book that will go back to the past and let us relive whatever happened and why the Order of the Phoenix lost the war. This is extremely dark. It made, again, a lot of sense to me, and to me, Harry Potter is forever broken. And we continue with the book that it is very dramatic, that it's a retelling of a story, but in this case, it's not as dark, and that is, yes, the Song of Achilles. Here we will follow the story of how Achilles became this incredible, powerful warrior and his story. But the cool thing about it is that it's going to be told under the point of view of Patroclus, who was his all-time best friend, and he just adores Achilles. And we see how he will need to face lots of incredibly hard stuff, how he will try to fight himself, his destiny, his love, and everything that unfolds. The beauty of this book is that it's written in a way that it is really beautiful. It will break your heart to read everything that happens here. It is probably not as easy to access as the other books that we've mentioned so far, mainly because it's a Greek retelling and because at the beginning we will drawn to a lot of different names that if you're not used to that, it will take a solid minute just to get into that context. But once that you start, everything will be handled very good. The pace, it's brilliant, leaning more towards the character side, and it's just it's a book worth reading. And last but not least in this category, and will I ever stop recommending this book? I don't believe so. We have Sword of Kaigen. This is one of my favorite books of all time, and I love it for so many reasons. The first one is that it has a feudal Japanese setting. The second one, it is very character driven, but there are action scenes that to me rival Sanderson. Acknowledgedly, the author made a choice while writing this book. When you reach 50% of the book, it seems that the plot has already ended, but there's more stuff going on, and it really worked for me. So just have a little bit of patience if you start it. We will have elemental magic here. In this case, people are able to wield ice magic, and we will mainly follow this family called the Matsudas, and they are the ones protecting their village against an invasion. Something happens and every member of this family will need to step up, and we will mainly follow the point of view of the mother Misaki and the son Mamuro. We continue with the fairy tale vibe, and in here we'll have all of those stories that either seems like a fairy tale or that are told in a way that it's just a narration. It has a beautiful touch to it. It's starting with Juniper and Thorn. And I knew going in that this was a dark fairy tale vibe, but I was surprised. It is really dark. It gets borderline creepy, and there are some descriptions of some stuff that happens that I thought could be avoided, because now I have that image in my head that I cannot forget. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, it's a story that fascinated me. It didn't end up being a favorite, but it really had something, and I believe that this is a kind of story that you need to read if you're in the mood of something truly kind of like beautiful but dark. We'll follow these three different sisters, and they are witches. They are the daughters of this very powerful wizard, and he has these sisters really clustered in their house, but they want to be free. Each of them has a special power, and it's mainly a story about how this father is really oppressing their children and how they want to tear those limits apart, how one of these girls find love, and the extent to what they will do. It's a little bit of a growing up story to believing in yourself, but it is dark. Really, Manacled, it's dark in the way that it's sad and depressing. Meanwhile, Juniper and Thorn, it's something that it's twisted. It's twisted. And even though up to this point we've all seen adult fantasy stories, here we have The Last Cuentista, which is a middle grade story, and it is beautiful, it is sad, and it is 100% worth your time. And it's a story that I believe that the less you know about, the more you will enjoy. So I will keep it really brief, but just give you some hints of what it is. It leans more towards the sci-fi side, and definitely also it's a character-driven story. But we will follow this girl, Petra, and she is facing this world that it's about to end. Some people has been lucky enough to be able to board some ships and be the ones to explore new lands. And even if her family were kind of like into biology and plants and all of that, she've always wanted to be the last Cuentista, the one that tells fairy tales. And she has memorized lots of stuff, and she has very beautiful memories of her grandmother telling her stories. And the story unfolds from there. It is not so young as I expected. I was truly shocked to the stuff that happens here. So I really recommend if you want something that has a beautiful prose and incredibly high stakes. And last but not least in this category, we have In the Lives of Puppets, which is the last story that DJ Clone created. And it's supposed to be a retelling of Pinocchio. Now, I hate Pinocchio. I'm always being super scared, and I potentially have a trauma about it. I was a little bit more than hesitant to get to read it. But it turns out that it's way more of a Wall-y, robot-y story than Pinocchio. It was described as having elements that will bring to your memory something that happened in Pinocchio rather than the proper story retold. And I think that's incredibly accurate, and so please give it a try because it was extremely cute, and it had this fairy tale vibe to it. We will have this alternative world where robots have killed all humans, and we have this little human that has been taken care of by this robot that is a creator, and this boy Victor has been finding and helping all the robots, and he has been kind of like getting them into his squad. And there are going to be mainly 3 robots that we will see in this story with him. 2 of them are from the beginning, and I absolutely love them. One of them, it's 100% like Wall-E, and the other one, it's Eva. So if you want that vibe, if you enjoyed Wall-E, this is a story for you. It is also fairly funny, and I really thought the story was cute. The pacing was fine. I wasn't incredibly attached to the story, and mainly it was because I did not love and what happens here, it's at its core a quest, but I really continued and I ended up enjoying the story because the dynamic between the robots and the proper robots are just priceless. And last but not least, we have cozy fantasy standalones, which I still believe there's a huge wave of these kind of books, and hopefully you can find here some standalones that you really enjoy. And we'll start with probably the most known in this category, which is Legends and Lattes. This was the first book that I read within this cozy fantasy vibe, and against all odds, I really enjoyed it. I thought up till that point that I only enjoyed high stakes epic fantasy stories, and no. We'll follow our main character, who is an ogre, and she wants to leave behind her life as a killer, and she wants to open a coffee shop because that is now her dream. And we will mainly follow her doing that, finding the place, building the stuff, generating new customers, hiring people. But the way in which it is done, it has become very popular because it is deeply soothing, because it is charming, because the characters are charismatic in a way that it's like, oh, they're cute. Like me? Cute like me? Exactly like you. It's very fast and I really recommend. Then we continue with a book that I've recently read and I've loved so much, that is Swordheart. This is the perfect blend between cozy and funny and having a quest at its core, and it just has so much banter. And this is really consolidating this author as the queen of cozy fantasy for me. It tells the story of Hala, who has just been inherited a lot of money, and she finds herself in a very tough position. One of the things that she inherits is this sword, and when she uses it, she finds that there's a man linked to the sword, and that this man will now be her servant, and he will help her flee and, try to take control of her life again. It leans more towards the fantasy romance side because there's this tension between the characters, but it's honestly not steamy, and it's a story that really reads fast, that it's hilarious. I really enjoyed it, but at the same time, it's cozy. The characters are phenomenal, are nuanced, and I had the best time with it. It's 100% a cozy, happy book. And last but not least, we will have Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. To me, it's really similar to the vibes that you get with An Enchantment of Ravens, but this is an adult fantasy story, and instead of autumn, we will have wintry vibes. We will follow this character that has a little bit of a workaholic tendency, and she really loves her job, and in this case she's crafting this Encyclopedia of Fairies, and she decides to go to this journey to this really desolate place to study Fae, and she has this enemy that works in the same field. They will find together in the same place, so there's a little bit of enemies to lovers, but overall it's, a story that reads cute, that reads fast, that will get you some emotional moments, and overall it's a story that I really recommend if you want something that it's, cozy. And if you were wondering why I am so close to a camera, it's because this is connected with a million cables, so I cannot get any further. I hope that is alright. Let me know down below if you enjoyed these recommendations, if you have any other, or if you want to see other moods. See you soon.